I'd say audit isn't exactly a passion, but it pays well, and I learn a lot of things on my job because my job is very diverse. I started my career with an internship at PwC my junior year, and then during that internship, I did like IT stocks, and I continued for full time with them. And then from there, I serviced Broadcom as one of my clients. So when the Broadcom internal audit team had an opening, they asked me if I wanted to join their team. And I did, and that's where I am now. And with my 6 years at Broadcom, I've done a number of different things, including working on IT audits, operational audits, and now I'm working on financial audits. Anything else you guys want me to elaborate on for introductions?
I think that's perfectly fine. Yeah, John, if you could go ahead.
Sure. So I'm John Downing, serial number 123. I'm just kidding. I was class of 2012. I did the BIM major with a minor in accounting. That came in handy for my very first job out of college, where I went to work for the FDIC. Can anyone here tell me what that stands for, FDIC? All right, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. They're the reason that your money is safe in the bank. I then fell back onto the technical side of the BIM major, some of the programming experience and all of that, and got the opportunity to come back to California. The FDIC had relocated me out of state and worked for a technology company in the healthcare space. And I now am a technical project manager at a spin-off consultant that came out of one of these companies called Zen Healthcare IT. I really enjoy this position because I love solving problems. I guess it sounds pretty generic, but I'm the gatekeeper between technology and business because I've done both sides of it. I can have a customer ask for something that sounds really silly, and I can break it down, ask them some leading questions, turn it into specification that I can then turn around and give to an engineer, and that, turn that engineer's problems or opportunities that they see, turn it into business speak for the client. And that's my biggest value add, and I attribute almost all of that to the BIM major.
All right, yeah, thank you so much for those very complete answers. Second question for both of you guys, what are some of the responsibilities of your current job positions, and what does a typical day look like for each of you?
John, do you want to start, or do you want me to start?
Let's go right ahead, Lucy. Let's keep it clean.
All right. There are two main parts to my job, and I have 4 group of people that I interact with regularly. So the first part of my job is I'm the SOX program manager for the company, and the second is as a team people manager. So I'll talk about those things a little bit. So in the first group, on the admin side as a people manager, then I work with my boss to do strategic planning for my department, including our staff career growth, job satisfaction opportunities. I negotiate contracts, monitor project scoping, and deliverables from our partners. And I'm also in charge of hiring for the department, at least for the last 3 years. Every time we've had a headcount, it's always come to me to do the hiring and deciding who is the final candidate that we're going to hire. On the program management side, those are the folks that I work with on a consistent basis. I have my own team. I have our company different departments within finance, the lead in each of those departments. I guess in finance and some of IT as well. I have my external audit team that I work with, and our partner service partners. So as a program manager, I'm in charge of evaluating whether we have effective internal controls over financial reporting for companies. So that's where the BIM major and my accounting background comes together. And we both look at both business process and IT processes. So business processes include revenue, inventory, employee compensation, external reporting. And on the IT side, we'll look at access and change to key systems. We'll look at significant SDLC projects as well as cybersecurity. And I work with each department leads to make sure that we have enough controls in place to address these key financial risks. My team then tests the controls to make sure that they're effective. I review pretty much everybody's work on my team. I work with our external auditors to make sure that their audit requirements are being met, and I mediate between them as well as our department leads on control-related issues or concerns. And when business is making process changes, I work with them to make sure that any audit concerns are also addressed. So that's, in a nutshell, what my job is. This is pretty dynamic. There's a lot of different components, a lot of different parts, which is what interests me. And it's a challenge. It's fun. It's fast-paced, and it's great.
Awesome. Would it be okay if I took over the screen share for a couple slides?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. Let me give you a co-host ability.
Oh, I think he already is.
I think I have it.
Yeah, he has already.
Oh yeah.
All right, this should do it. All right, you guys seeing a nice, beautiful, I don't know, lakeside experience?
Yeah, looks good.
Beautiful. All right. So just a little bit about Zen. We are a healthcare interoperability SME, subject matter expert. We are primarily a consultant, increasingly becoming a vendor. What does it mean to be healthcare interoperability? Just a quick silly diagram. The best allegory I have is a credit report. So, you know, as you guys probably know, there are credit reporting agencies out there collecting information on you, making it available for banks to, you know, decide to approve you or deny you for a loan. If you go get and look at your credit report, you see all kinds of data about you, taken from all kinds of banks and credit unions and all kinds of entities. Now, replace the word banks and money with, or, you know, payment history or whatever, with healthcare and health history and health data, and that's what the healthcare interoperability world's about. We sit right in the middle. I actually stole this from some of our marketing material. I don't need to really go into too much about that. And so what do I do here? My main role is scoping and estimating projects, planning those projects. Now, for me, I live in Gantt charts. I think we learned those in Operations 101, or I think there was also a project management course. Does the term Gantt chart sound familiar to you guys out there? I don't have a picture of one, but it's like a map showing the slack time, the lead time, all that kind of stuff. I'm the throat to choke is kind of the parlance that we use. I'm in charge of our timelines and due dates for projects, and a project is connecting two entities together to share data most of the time. And I am in charge of scheduling. That's capacity planning, and that's, you know, figuring out, am I scheduling somebody to work a 100-hour week to make sure we make a deadline, that kind of stuff. I try to avoid doing that. I have the typical little project triangle here in the middle: cost, scope, and time. Pick one. That is my life to a certain extent. And then what's my day-to-day look like? A lot of coffee, meetings, and finding somewhere between all the meetings for focused time. So I'm meeting with clients to gather requirements, to give them status updates, to host working sessions. Because I have a technical background, that's the T in TPM, I'm actually able to serve as an engineer or save an engineer, let them focus on something else for some of the higher level technical work, which is a really nice thing to do because it's, you know, as you guys are probably aware, the ability to just sit down, focus, and work is something to cherish very highly, and something that a lot of people don't get a lot. I'm also running meetings internally to do things like scope projects and estimate them, figure out how much we'll charge a customer for a project, and figure out our, like I mentioned, capacity planning, and where can we get more efficient, use less man hours or woman hours to do the same amount of work or deliver the same amount of value. And that's how we can scale and grow. Just wanted to show literally what my day-to-day looks like. This was last week. just a quick little view. This is just my day. It's sliced and diced a million different ways with a ton of meetings. But you'll notice a couple times in there, I've got some nice big chunks that I protected. And that's a good habit to have. Protect some time so you can sit down and focus. If I could share a random tip for no reason. Okay, I think that's a complete answer to your question.
Thank you so much for that very in-depth answer from both of you guys. Yeah, I'm sure being or working in the BIM industry takes so much effort as you guys just described. But yeah, kudos to you guys because seems like it takes a lot of hard work and a lot of meetings as well as a lot of energy drinks to follow up and try to learn more about the BIM industry. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Sorry, I'm partial to Bang. I love the Bang energy drink.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And Yerba, it's pretty good. But yeah, that's it for the introduction. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'll pass it on to Alex for the next segment.
Yeah, thanks, Derek. Lucy and John, thank you so much for introducing more about your day-to-day and how busy your schedules are. I can definitely imagine just how like jam-packed your schedules are and how busy everyone is. I don't know if I cut out, sorry about that. Yeah, so we wanted to go into a little bit more about your schooling and career and to know a little bit more about like how it was like being at UCI and how it was like being part of like almost like the inaugural class of being a BIM major, right? So I guess like one of our first questions to you guys is that we want to know like how is it being how did like being BIM affect like what industry you pursued after graduation? Did having like that technical background, as John mentioned, help affect where you wanted to go into for professionally, or did you like have like a set path and you just stuck to it and ended up where you guys are at right now?
I guess I'll go first. I did the internship at PwC my junior year as the start of my career, and I kind of just stuck with the career path. And what I've realized is that when I was taking BIM classes, it's not so much that I enjoyed coding. I definitely did not enjoy coding. I enjoy learning the concepts, and I enjoy being able to communicate and understand things from a business and a technology perspective, but without having to do the actual coding. And with that, it helped me narrow down on what I wanted to do and what areas I wanted to focus on. So in my current role, I do have to understand both business and IT. And personally, I enjoy leading a team much more than doing the technical work. So that's also why I just kind of went up the management ladder. So that I can do the management of people, of programs that I enjoy the most. Like we have staffing challenges. I love solving those puzzles on how we can move pieces together to make sure that we're making our staff happy, that they're growing, they're getting the right opportunities, and also how we get our current jobs done. So there's a lot of creativity that's involved in that. Yeah, so I'd say that's probably what really helped me is to pay attention to what I did enjoy in the BIM program and also what I enjoyed by participating in different organizations while I was in college. And I think the other thing that I wanted to mention is that having that technical understanding, that background actually really helped with my career, because when I talk to folks in IT, I can connect the dots much better than someone who doesn't have that IT background. Because nowadays, business and IT kind of go hand in hand unless you're doing like pure sales or pure accounting, or even accounting, you have to understand how the systems work, right? And so having the technical background, especially I think when John and I took ICS 122A and B, we were project partners. We coded to like 4 a.m. in the morning, many nights, because we both sucked at programming back then.
Those were rough,
that really
rough days.
Oh, they were, but they were. But like being able to digest SQL codes, understanding how reports are created, what fields are being pulled, how things interweave together, really helped my career, because I can understand things from both sides. I can speak both languages, both on the business side and the IT side. And that added a lot of credibility to my role, to my name. And yeah, so I think those things really helped. So I guess if anything for the students here now, to figure out what you want to pursue in your career, just pay attention to what you like doing. And when you find a career, you may not start with doing everything that you like, but if you keep trying to find opportunities to align what you like to do in your job, then you'll eventually get to the point where you can find roles that will allow you to do more of what you like majority of the time rather than minority of the time. And I think that makes a big difference. To you, John.
Awesome. Can I get the question one more time? I have a couple interjoined things. I want to figure out which one I want to speak to.
Yeah, of course. So we just want to ask, like, since BIM is both technical and like management background, and you have classes in both, we just want to know more about how you guys went into like the careers that you are in now, and how did you guys choose to choose between like the technical and management background, and what you want to go into?
Got it. Okay. So the BIM major on its own wasn't a major factor in my very first step. The bigger thing for me in that step was a little bit of my work background and my accounting minor. So just a quick trip through time. Back in 2012, the job market was not great. I actually have a good slide on that later, and we'll get to that. But it felt like I was getting no callbacks from recruiters. It felt like I'd never get a job. I'd be working for, $8 an hour for the rest of my life and retire in my parents' basement. But in Southern California, no one has basements, so I'll be lucky to have any space of my own. But I went to the career fair, which was an in-person event at the time, and tried my luck, learn, talk to people, and the FDIC was recruiting at this event. They're a government agency. It's very formal. I was able to put in my application, and they had you rank your field offices, but from up to 1 to 50, what order you'd prefer to go where. So I saw this as my chance to go finally live the big city life and go New York City, Boston, San Francisco, bam, 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 all the way down. My 38th choice was Cincinnati, Ohio, and that's where I got stationed. So what got me that job, it was a tough market. What got me that job was I had some experience part-time as a bank teller, so working in a bank-related industry was valuable, and my accounting minor. And even then, it was tough. It was a tough market, obviously. Or I'd like to think it was a tough market. It wasn't some fundamental flaw. But the BIM major is what unlocked my opportunity to take the next step from there. And that was, I went to Cincinnati. I learned a lot. It was an extremely valuable time, but I didn't have roots there. And as some of you may have done, you may have done this to come to school, you may be doing this for your first job or your next job. Moving to a distant city that you don't have friends or family is a fairly tough thing to do. And getting the opportunity to come home is very nice. So one of my, the computer lab partners from, I think, ICS 101 and 201, his name was Adrian. This one wasn't Lucy. He had an opening on his team at a company called Mirth. They were technical support for a business-to-business side of the business. It's a lot of the word business. Dealing with software development, software troubleshooting, these kinds of things in the healthcare information technology space. And because we had programmed together, he knew I could do it. He was an ICS major, but he saw that I knew how to code. I wasn't maybe a phenomenal, beautiful musical coder, A lot of times it was spaghetti code, at least at first, but he knew I had the raw talent and that I could learn. And that is what got me that job to come home, and I built my career from there. So that was a very long-winded answer, I apologize. But the very first step wasn't so much BIM, but the ability to pivot was very BIM, and I very much appreciate that side of the major for it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, John, for elaborating more on your experiences and how that technical background helped land you a job in your field that you're right now. But real quick, since Johnny, I know you just joined us real quick. Do you mind giving us a quick introduction about yourself and what you're doing currently and what your day-to-day is looking like right now? Oh, John, I think you're mute.
Sorry. You guys can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So hi everyone, Johnny Toy. Again, apologies for being late. Let me get out of the way. And so right now I work at Taco Bell. I have been here full time for just. I started at the beginning of the year, so it'll be 4 full months. But I was actually at Taco Bell for 2.5 years consulting for them prior to this, prior to joining full time. And prior to that, I was a consultant for 9 years since I graduated. Since I graduated in 2012, I took the 5-year plan at UCI and actually started as a ICS major. Actually, started as a CSE major, computer science and engineering. Switched into ICS for like 2 months maybe, and then when I got into BIM at the last minute right before graduating, that honestly just changed my life. And because BIM was what got me into consulting, it is what gave me the skill set needed to become a consultant. And I had a nice long career there. And after getting out of consulting and finding what I really loved and really wanted to do, that's where I found that's my true calling at Taco Bell, implementing Taco Bell's loyalty program. So that was my life for the last 2 years, was implementing this loyalty program. And then after we had gone live, they came out to me and said, hey, you want to own this program moving forward? And as we expand into other channels, as we expand into the other sister brands, the Yum brands that we have, I'm hoping to do that for a long time. So that's what I've been doing. I will answer more questions later on if as we dive deeper into it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for like a quick interview, Johnny. Yeah. So like, I honestly thank you so much for introducing yourself. I am moving on to another pre-prepared question for you guys. One of the big things about like MAISS or one of the big things about BIM is that it's the combination of both business and technology. And so we were wondering if like, in your time at UCI, whether it's 4 or 5 years, what were like some like the orgs and like orgs as well as like things that you joined that helped you guys in your own career paths and your own journeys into where you are right now?
Anyone want to go first? If not, I can go. Okay, I will go. So when I first started, like I mentioned earlier, I started as a computer science engineer. I really didn't like it because I'm kind of a social animal at heart. I really like talking to people. I really like conversing and meeting people, and CSE people, ICS people, no offense, the people that I was around in the classes, they weren't as extroverted and weren't as talkative. So I had a really hard time bonding with those people. So when I could, as soon as I could, I tried to join organizations. I actually joined a business fraternity on campus, Delta Sigma Pi. So I joined them my spring quarter of my sophomore year. And the idea was that I was a CSE major, but I wanted to join the business side of things so I could learn more about the business side of things. This was before I was able to join BIM. Like I mentioned, I didn't become a BIM major until like my 4th year. Like I think like spring quarter of my 4th year, and then I think I spent the last year, my 5th year at UCI as a BIM major and graduated with BIM. But I wanted to, I was always craving that business side of things. You know, I was just doing computer science engineering. I was just doing physics classes, these like digital classes. It was just boring. It was just completely boring for me. I just it did not appeal to me at all. And then I wasn't doing well. I was just doing very, very poorly in those classes. But then when I switched over to I joined my business fraternity. I took more of the economics classes. I took more informatics classes. That kind of got me into the BIM major. Same requirements gathering classes. I was taking project management classes. That's where I really thrived. And that's where I realized, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to become a business analyst. I was going to become a project manager. I was going to go down that route of being this consultant. And that combination of business and technology is what that's where my sweet spot is. And that's where I'm doing really well now, in that I had a strong enough technical background by having the CSE background and the BIM background that had, you know, my Java classes. So I understood enough. And then by taking all the BIM classes and informatics classes, I was able to get that strong business analyst background. So then I can work with the business to gather requirements, understand everything they're trying to do from a business perspective, and then transform those into actual requirements and code, and work with my developers to say, okay, here, this is how you do it, and this is what needs to be done, and kind of work with them and bridge that gap between business and technology. That's always something that I've always said I really enjoy doing, and now I get to do that every day, and I'm loving it.
I can go next because I know Lucy's going to totally dominate this one by saying I started a club dedicated to my major. I didn't really have a whole lot of on-campus involvement. I guess I'll let this cat out of the bag. I never joined MAISS either. I just somehow started getting invited to these things and started coming to represent the major. But it was too new. It wasn't something that I was able to, really jump on at the time. What helped me succeed as a BIM major was a couple of things. Picking a strong team. And this is for the coursework, the technical work especially. I had everyone has their share of group projects. Most of the programming projects are group projects. You'll find a teammate, may not be so good. You might even be good friends with them. Don't pair up with them again. Get yourself a strong team that you have a good work synergy with, because you'll probably be with that person in a couple different classes, or potentially a couple different jobs in the future. Another thing was a little bit, I guess, an almost kind of generic sounding advice, but professors' office hours, I use those a lot for programming, because I struggled with programming quite a bit to get started. And Stack Overflow, excellent. Copy paste is still valid. You can still copy paste your way to success. As long as you know what's going on underneath, you're good. For the business, I did the reading. I know that's scary. Do the reading. I mean it. Going halfway and not getting that core fundamental background, people can smell that. People can smell when you didn't do your homework, literally. And you can skate by in class doing that, but in work, you might not get fired, but you're not going to be the name on the top of everybody's tongue when there's a promotion coming around. Similarly, participate in the class. Sure, I had some classes that I didn't really care for, that I was in the back on my computer browsing, Tumblr or whatever it was at the time. I'll admit to that, but the way I succeeded in the courses that I was passionate about, the courses that I saw a direct line of communication or a direct line of support to my future, I wouldn't say the teacher's pet, but I was at least raising my hand and getting involved in some of the discussions. The last tip, if you can, get an internship or a part-time job. I attribute that part-time job as a bank teller to making a couple thousand extra bucks, which is great. Yeah, I had a 401k a little bit early. That's great. But that's how I got my first career step with the FDIC. I was able to stand out and get that position because of that in a tightly competitive market. I think that qualifies as success. Yes.
Can I get the question one more time to make sure I'm answering on point?
Yeah, so it was just more asking about like your on-campus involvements and some of your extracurriculars that you were involved in that had helped you succeeded in your career and got you to where you are right now.
Got it. Okay. So I did quite a bit on campus, partially for fun and partially because I wanted to test my own skills. But I guess I'll say I was an ICS student ambassador for maybe 2 years. So through that, I made really good friends with the counselors and the school admin, which really helped me with, I guess, when we started MAISS, to be able to have the right connections, to have the right support, both from Pomeraj and also from Donald Bren. I think I did quite a bit of clubs on campus, so I'm sure, part of my profile is that I started MAISS with Sandra, and I was also I was on board for Accounting Association. I did SPOP, and my friends from Accounting Association that year, we started a business fraternity called Lambda Phi Nu. I don't know if you guys know about it. So Lambda Phi Nu and MAISS kind of started in the same year, so that was a little difficult in terms of balancing priorities. But I think what helped me the most in my career, because I'm more focused on wanting to be a leader, that's what I'm passionate about, is being able to have a group of people together to accomplish something. While schoolwork was important, what I learned the most is actually being able to work together in groups to make things happen. Like we planned the first AA as a professional banquet ever. And through that, we learned a lot of different teamwork, different skills, and we then translated that into starting Bid Office I, was what it was called back then. And similarly, those skills then transferred to starting MAISS, because you have to understand how to gather support, you have to understand how to promote your club, you have to understand how to work with different people on campus, different personalities, and motivate folks that are not as motivated to get something done, because all of this is volunteer work, right? We're not getting paid for any of that. But a lot of my initial project management and leadership skills came from being involved on campus. And when I worked at PwC, then I further honed in on the project management skills. And I think through that led me to where I am today, because I think I'm fairly good at that. I'm good at taking apart, this is a funny one. So in school, I was not a very good student in that I'm not this type of person who will just sit there and study consistently every day, right? Because I love doing club things. I love having fun. So a lot of times when I study, I will literally just I still remember in freshman year, psych, 101 or something like that. Instead of going to class for the final, I literally just sat on my butt for 10 hours before the final the day before and read through all the chapters, went to take the test the next day and aced it. I didn't really do call it homework. So that's the kind of person that I am, except for except for computer science classes. Those were really hard. I actually had to try and study. But what I learned, I realized very recently, is that I'm really good at taking a finished product, reverse engineer, and understand why things are the way they are. And being able to understand the why, then I can figure out the how. So that happens a lot in my job, because I took over this role maybe 3 years ago, and there were some contentious employee termination during that time. So I went into this role without any financial audit background. So being able to speak all of the business languages, I had to like read so much material for prep, right? But because I was able to take a look at what someone else has already produced, even though there's not a whole lot of rationale behind it, and I can dissect it and try to figure out why things are structured a certain way, then I was able to reverse engineer and apply my own logic and then build the program to become much better and much more strong. And so I think that's something that I learned from the way that I studied in college and probably the rest of my life, and combining that with doing a lot of leadership roles on campus, which is the things that I love doing the most. That really helps my career overall. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it really does. Thank you so much. I think like one big takeaway from all you guys is that like, you know, everyone has their different paths, and you know, it's okay to be like really involved in campus, and like, you know, like you said, Lucy, to have like not be the most engaged in the schoolwork. And for John, it's like it was, you know, finding those teammates that really would just help you out in those classes. So everyone has their own different flavors to get by. But I'll pass it off to Derek and to keep going.
All right, thank you so much for those in-depth answers again. But yeah, we'll just be talking more about MAISS, like the history of it, and your guys' experience with this organization. So this first question goes to you, Lucy, since I know you are the founder, in addition to Sandra. So first question, yeah, so when you guys started MAISS, what were some of the challenges you guys faced, and how did you overcome those challenges?
When we started MAISS, I think the biggest value was actually how to present ourselves as a value add organization, because MAISS was so new. So there are two things, right, that we eventually figured out, I guess probably right before we started the club, actually. But it was also, it takes time to execute on those visions. So MAISS as an organization brings the BIM students together so that there's a community for us, especially when we were so new. Like, we were the first years to graduate. We didn't know anyone else that was in the major. So we wanted to have a community where we can talk about what our challenges are, and having a connection to the ICS school and the Mirage school, because I'm a student ambassador. I had the eyes and ears of the counselors and the admins in the school, so we can directly provide that feedback to the school. So then I think the coursework eventually got tailored because we provided collective feedback from our students. So that's one, is to have a community. A second is, how do we bring job opportunities? How do we find the right job opportunities for our students? Because that's eventually what we're looking for, right, as students when we graduate. As much as we have fun in college, we still need to find a job when we leave college. So I say we had it, so those challenges were overcome by first having a solid foundation in, connection with other campus, other clubs on campus. So I was friends with the folks that led the Women in ICS organization. I think there was also ICS Student Council that started my junior or senior year, and I was part of that. And we also had a county association where there are different firms that would come in and look for students specifically that had some sort of BIM sort of background, because I was a hire that they thought was perfect for the role that they hired me into. So I know that we're a target group for that. So it was a matter of making sure that we can engage enough students so that the firms, when they come out, they feel like there is enough candidates there. So there's promotions on both sides. Without bringing in enough students, the firms will feel like it's a waste of their time to come and present to the club. And if the firms that are coming in aren't interesting enough to the students, and the students also don't feel like they're going to have a lot of value. So a lot of the initial challenges that I had my year was making sure that we can align these things together. We worked really closely with the administrations on both Mirage and ICS so that we can also get monetary support. We can connect with their resources to make sure that we're doing things in the best way possible. And I think that when you start something, this goes really back to how I feel. And Sandra and I, like, she's still like one of my best girlfriends to this day, is that when you start something on campus, you need to make sure you have someone that's not going to bail on you. So MAISS actually started with 5 founders, but the other 3 kind of didn't really do a whole lot of work. And so it was just down to me and Sandra. And I think even my friends who have done startup work or entrepreneurship, it's really important to have a good partner with you when you're going through the trenches, because there's just so much to do, and there's not going to be enough time where one person can handle it all, and then you're going to face a lot of rejection. So you're going to have to pivot very quickly to find different ways to solve problems. And so having someone that's there that's going to get your back, and even if you just have a really shitty day, but like you're there like to commiserate together, like just like complain together over a meal, and then get right back onto your horse and keep going. Like that's the type of person that that I was fortunate enough to have, and I've found that in both MAISS and also the Accounting Association folks that we started our business fraternities with. And so, and I also found that in John. So I guess I'm very fortunate to have such good support and such good teams to be able to overcome the challenges. And I think that's also one of the biggest takeaway lessons in my job, is that you succeed as a team. And if you understand that from the get-go, you'll go much further in your career to make sure that you're elevating everybody in your team, because only when you're elevating everybody in your team and building their skills, then you can go farther. You can go to the next step. And the next thing I would say is, with MAISS, we needed to start with one focus. Once we get good at that one focus, then we can expand. I don't know how things were, I guess after I graduated, because I was only with it for maybe a year. But I think if you try to do too much at the beginning, you lose focus, and that makes it difficult for you to differentiate yourself. So when you can do one thing really, really well, and then you see that you have capacity or you have potential from your team to do more, then you can encourage them to take on the next step and expand on your repertoire. So I think those are probably the biggest challenges and how we face them going forward. So I'm really happy to see that MAISS is still thriving. And I guess a lot of it is to make sure that you notice people who are really passionate and who want to work with you. Like I think Norman was the president after Sandra, and I remember like Norman and I were really, really close for a very long time too, because we both really believed in what we did, in our purpose. And I guess everybody that comes along will add different types of value. So as a leader, you have to be able to recognize that and use folks' strengths instead of criticizing their weaknesses. So you have to assign projects and roles that really capitalizes on their strength, because then they're happy and the result would be great. They have the drive to go and achieve more on their own. And you're just there to, catch everybody in case something happens. I guess that's my 2 cents. Back to you.
All right, thank you so much. I think like your idea of MAISS is really brilliant, because there's not really many clubs out there that bridges the gap between business and tech. And I feel like being part of this community has really taught me both sides. I'm a computer science major, but just learning about some business stuff really helps in the future. And yeah, I found like many great people, or there's many great people I met in this club, and I'm pretty thankful for it. So thank you again. But we're running out of time, but there's one more question I wanted to ask. I know John mentioned earlier that he wasn't part of MAISS, so I guess I won't be asking a question that's related to MAISS to him, but I'll just ask Johnny, because Johnny, we haven't talked, I'll just give Johnny one more question. So for Johnny, how has MAISS helped you grow, and what were some of the things that you took away from being part of this organization?
Yeah, so I joined MAISS, when by the time I had graduated, Lucy had just started MAISS with Sharon. I joined pretty late. in basically my last year. But I joined for the community of like-minded people that were looking for jobs and needed kind of like help in specifically in that business technology. You know, when I was in Delta Sigma Pi, like they were very at the time they were very accounting oriented and very just like purely business oriented. But MAISS is where I found a lot of like-minded people that were like, oh yeah, I want to go into consulting. Oh yeah, I want to do these type of things. I wanted to be technical, but also be like stay a little bit on the business side as well. So for me, the community, I got the community out of it, but at the same time, I was able to help provide back to the community, like that. Okay, yeah, I'm about to graduate, but I was able to try to stay connected with the people of MAISS. I came back when I got out of school. I started working at Capgemini as a consultant, but then I came back and I helped do recruitment at UCI with Capgemini and brought it back to people in the MAISS community and in the BIM community as a whole. And I think that was what I enjoyed the most out of it, just like joining this community and just like help it grow by helping these people that were kind of in the same shoes that I was, because there are people that come in to a computer science or whatever role and you realize that's not where I want to be. Like I didn't want to do programming long term. So it sounded like there's a lot of people like that in MAISS, and I was like, okay, if I had gone through those struggles. I was very miserable, but if I could provide some value to these people and give back to them, that's something I wish I had going through school, and but because I didn't, it doesn't mean that I can't. Like at least I had those lessons learned and I can provide that back down to a community. So like like Norman and some other people that like I work with and still keep in contact with, like that went through those same motions as we did. Going through college, it was tough. Like a lot of people were like, I hate computer science, I hate CS21, I hate Java, but the fact that we were able to kind of come together with that common hatred, but then come out like still successful. Everyone is successful now. Everyone has jobs. Like those are just kind of like small little roadblocks and speed bumps on the way of becoming successful. Like at the end of the day, school is it's just a means to an end, right? You still, what like Lucy said, we're gonna need to have a job at the end of the day. For me, like being able to be around those like-minded community of people gave me the kind of like the courage and success to work to become more successful so that I can like come back and just feed back into that community. And it's just this endless cycle of good, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I think MAISS is a really good experience for everyone. And yeah, I'm glad you grew a lot from doing this organization. But that wraps it up for questions about MAISS. We'll move on to the open Q&A, read out some questions that some of the audience has in the chat, and we can have you guys answer that. So I'll just scroll up and see if there's any questions. All right, so from Chalada, she says, how do you guys manage your work life or how do you guys balance your work life and I guess your life at home or just like your free time? So I guess any of you guys could take that.
I'll go first on that one. The big thing for me, and this actually became especially true in COVID with working from home, was the need, or at least the benefit, of establishing boundaries. And the boundaries work in two ways. One is to protect your personal, like, sanity and time to a certain extent. You'll notice a theme of many of my answers is protecting your time, using your time wisely. Protecting your personal time, but also protecting your work time. And working from home especially, those tend to merge a little bit. So the ability to literally schedule time to, heads down, focused, put some music on, work, and also schedule some time for I'm not working. Now, you can't necessarily get away with I'm never going to work past 5 p.m. ever. You need to be able to flex and be flexible. Same thing. You need to be flexible, but you don't want to break. If you don't flex a little, you won't get very far, but if you break, you're dead. So that's how I manage my work-life balance, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. You know, I think work-life balance is different for a lot of people. When I was going into the office every day, I actually worked really long hours, but I loved it. Like when you love what you do, it doesn't really matter. Actually, like I was staying, I was like sometimes the first person in and last person out. Like Taco Bell doesn't like the company themselves sometimes dictate a lot of what the work-life balance is. As a consultant before, there really wasn't a work-life balance either. It depends on the company you're in and the clients as well. But when I like in my most recent job, but like consulting for Taco Bell, I was there like 60 hours a week, and I loved it though because I loved what I was doing. So I justified my work-life balance. So like, okay, yeah, I'm doing a lot more per week, but loving what I do, it was fun. I was looking forward to it. But now, like going, you know, echoing what John has said though, like with work-life balance at home, it's a little bit rough because, yeah, I still love what I do, but I still need to find some time for myself. And you know, so like my time for myself is like, okay, I'm going to go and have dinner with my wife. I'm gonna go and have lunch with my wife. I'm going to go and just get out of my office. I'm lucky to have an office. She has her own office in the house too, and we're able to go, okay, I'm gonna close the door and I'm gonna get out. And you know, flexing as well, echoing that as well. Like I'll stop working at 5, sometimes 6, sometimes 7. But then like I'll have a dinner break, and then sometimes I'll just come back and I'll work at like 10, 11 p.m. Those are the times when it's like me, I'm focusing on what I need to do instead of spending the time just like 30 hours a week in meetings. That's one of the things you'll learn as like when you're in the real world, like there's a lot of meetings, and then there's not going to be a lot of time for like you like head down work. And sometimes you do have to flex and do those late nights just to get the work done because you're expected to be in these meetings like during business hours. So flexing is definitely a great call out there.
I'll answer that real quick as well. I think my work-life balance is probably a little bit different than Johnny and John's. It is similar in that you have to be flexible, right? So I've always looked for flexibility, even with my very first job. Even with public accounting, I know that's a little bit tough, but I always look for ways where I can have my flexibility. So I'm not a morning person, so I'll literally not show up to the office until 9:30 or 10, sometimes 10:30. My New York team knows not to call me in the morning. I've trained my boss not to call me before 9:30. And today I don't want to really work that much, so I was like watching anime most of the day. But there are obviously like many days when I need to get to work, and so I'm very efficient when I actually work, so that I can afford to like slack off. I slack off, but I never miss deadlines. My quality never suffers, and yeah, people don't really know that that the background. So don't tell anybody because I don't want to get in trouble with my work. But yeah, my boss fully trusts me to manage my own schedule, and I tell my team the same things. And I to combat the number of meetings that I have, I tell everybody to avoid having meetings with me on Mondays, because Mondays are my days where I focus on like making sure that my analytical work, I can put my head down and do work. I will schedule all of my meetings Tuesdays through Thursdays. And since I also work with the Asia region, I have meetings until nighttime, like sometimes 7, 8, 9 p.m., depending on which country I'm meeting with. But because of that, I tell my boss, like, hey, I'm happy to be flexible and cover these things, but on the reverse side, I also need flexibility for when I want time on my own. And so when I was at PwC, I was like the flexibility champion for the office for my line of service. And so I like really take it seriously, and I would not want to work anywhere that would not give me that flexibility. But on the reverse of flexibility, I never miss a deadline, and I never deliver things with bad quality. So it's a trade-off, right? But I think if you're really believing something, you'll find a way to make it happen. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally agree with all you guys. yeah, I feel like balancing that work and life balance is really important because you want to have time for yourself. You don't always want to be work, stress all the time. And yeah, it would sound really cool if I could just watch anime during work in the future. But yeah, but thank you so much for that. Yeah, Alex, you want to take the next question in the chat?
Yeah. Hopefully, we'll wrap up soon. 'Cause I know we're running a little bit over time, but this question is from Lucian. He says, I was curious about what sort of aspects you look for or slash value in a company in your first job out of undergrad versus in your current position now. What do you guys think about? How do you guys think about your first job and what do you guys looked for versus now as seasoned professionals?
My first job, I was just trying to find a job, I'd say. It was like economic downturn that year. I think PwC only had hired 3 interns from UCI, so it was a pretty hard time. My second job, then I cared a lot more about pay, especially as a minority woman in a leadership position. Like I made sure that I negotiated for my pay, and my boss understands that, even though it's a little awkward when you first start doing that. Pay, flexibility, and I need a role where it's dynamic and I have a lot of growth. And that comes with patience. Sometimes the roles won't line up directly, but I have a really, really good boss, which is also why I've stayed at Broadcom for so long. He's not one of those folks that cares as much about seniority as merit. And he's also very, I guess what I'm trying to say is that having a really, really good boss, having good pay, and having flexibility and being able to continuously grow my skills are the things I look for.
Yeah, I mean, I can echo that too. When I first started, I was just gonna take anything. I mean, like we said, it was not a great time for the economy. I was really lucky to have found even a consulting job that was hiring. I actually joined Capgemini off cycle. You know, by the time I was looking to apply, they were like, "Oh yeah, we've already hired the people that we were looking for." But I was just like super persistent. I got in contact with the recruiter that just happened to be a Delta Sig as well, but from USC, and he was the national recruiter for Capgemini, and I got in contact with him, and I just chatted, and then I found an opening at Warner Brothers, which was my first client, and they found an opening for me, and the pay honestly was not great starting out as a consultant. I missed out on a lot of like the consulting things that you start with, like the onboarding that a lot of people did. They went over to India and they spent a few weeks in Atlanta and they did a lot of cool things. But for me, I just kind of spent 2 days in Burbank and that was my onboarding. And I wasn't too mad about it because I got a job. I got my foot in the door in consulting, and that's what I was really looking for. I was looking for a job at the beginning of, okay, how can I learn as much as I can with breadth of knowledge, not exactly depth of knowledge, but breadth. And that's what I was focusing on. And it worked out as a consultant because you jump into different projects, you do different things, different clients. And then now fast forward, 10 years. Now I'm looking for something that I can maybe like kind of double click in and get deeper knowledge and understand a little bit more. That's what I found with my current role is like I found that I love loyalty programs. I love that's why I wanted to be a consultant. That was the number one reason why I joined consulting. It was like points, hotel points, airline points, credit card points. I was like, I love that stuff. And then when I found a role at Taco Bell and they were building a loyalty program, I was like, oh, this is what I wanted to do. This is why I joined consulting. And I got to work with my now boss and built out this program from scratch. And now it's going live, or it's gone live, and now we're just continuing to grow it. And I get to own it, and it's great. And that's one of the other things I've learned as well over the years that Lucia touched upon was the great boss. I love this boss. She's definitely my number one reason for staying here. Not only do I love what I do, but I love working with her and working with other people on our team. They really just make the things worth it. The pay is great, but for me, a good boss outweighs anything else. They were willing to support me when I was at Capgemini, I didn't have that great of a boss. I switched around multiple times, but still didn't have a great boss. I switched into another company. I wasn't too fond of my boss there either. But then I joined Taco Bell, and I not only when I joined on, not only did I get a great pay bump, but I also got a great boss that like was watching out for my back, and that's really just invaluable.
And I went ahead and pirated the screen share. I got a slide up here. I don't know if you guys can see it. Just showing that, economic data at 2012, we were about halfway back out of the recession. We're kind of right back at that same level of employment today. So it's kind of an interesting parallel. I would say, first job, you should be looking for the experience, something you can springboard from. Come for the experience, stay for the culture. It's really hard to tell from the outside if where you're going is going to have a nice, healthy culture. My other two esteemed panelists have alluded to this, having a good boss or a good team around you that supports you and challenges you and tries to get you to learn and grow is actually not that common. So don't be afraid to jump around a little bit. The years of working 40 years at one company are obviously way behind us. But if I were to sum it up in one little tagline, it's come for the experience, but stay for the culture, or leave for the culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's so true, John. Like, another thing I learned is that loyalty doesn't go both ways. Loyalty in the concept of companies. Like, if during an economic downturn, they'll drop you at the time, like immediately, but they expect you to be kind of like loyal to them and try to put in as much hours, and they'll work you to death. So one thing I've learned is that if you can find a company that really respects you as a person and is willing to put in, like, the boss is one piece, but the culture of the company is very important. The ones that really will support you, those are hard to find, very hard to find. I'm lucky to have found it here, and I think I'll be here for a little while.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for your insight into what you guys look for in your company, and just sharing your advice. Derek, you want to take that last question, hopefully?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, do you guys have time for one more question, or yeah, that's fine with you guys?
It's fine.
All right, sounds good. So from Nikhil, his question is, are there any software applications that have been important in your work experience on the business side that students should learn?
Tableau. Data's powerful thesis in words, or speak the most beautiful dictated words that have ever been told, but it's very hard to change someone's mind or compel someone, a manager, a customer, to take an action without a solid physical picture, visual picture, kind of like what I have on the screen right here. And Tableau is one of the most powerful tools out there that I think BIM majors are particularly well positioned to explore, to visualize data and put together just clear charts, graphs, heat maps, those kinds of things. Supporting decisions with those images sounds silly, but a picture is not worth 1,000 words, it's worth 1,000,000 words, it really is.
I'm going to go with Jira and Confluence. Jira, Trello, any type of those like agile project management tools. If you asked me maybe 6 years ago, I would have said Microsoft Project, but nowadays, like, everyone's going down the agile route, and I use Jira. I'm in Jira every single day right now, and being able to document tickets properly is what makes my team successful. I make my developers successful. I'm able to capture the requirements properly in these tickets. The breakdown is so much better. I don't know if like the curriculum has changed to that route now at UCI, but I know when I was there, I had 2 classes that talked about Microsoft Project, and nothing about Agile. But now that 10 years later, I hope that they have adapted that, because I use it every single day. Like, I didn't actually use Jira at all until I joined Taco Bell, and I was able to actually pick it up pretty quickly, and I was just running with it. And now I own the board, and I have to, I get to work with them every day, and everything about 2-week sprints, retrospectives, planning, grooming, all of that's how we live. That's my life now. So Jira, Confluence, those are the tools that I would recommend. And like, because we're like BIM people are supposed to be that bridging that gap, right? So like, if you're bridging that gap, you're gonna have to be writing requirements, and you're gonna have to be gathering those requirements from the business people, translating them to bridge that gap, and then they're delivering it to a developer that has to go and implement that, right? So if you're not able to write proper tickets, they're not going to be able to implement it, or they'll implement it improperly, and then whose fault will it be? It's not going to be their fault. So to me, Jira and Confluence are the number one tools.
I think my team is probably more archaic. We don't actually use any of these fancy tools. We just use Excel, to be honest. That's how I manage my program. But Jira is being used at Broadcom for, I think, in the engineering and the IT departments. So that's definitely a good tool. Personally, for me, I focus more on the ERP systems, but I don't think that's something that students wouldn't get as much exposure to. So like SAP, Oracle, those large enterprise resource planning systems, those are good to know. But I think for those, if you're working at a company that has those systems, then you'll likely get on the job training. So I can't say that I have as much to add here as my fellow panelists.
No, I mean, that is important though, what you said, Lucy, on the job training. That's where you will learn a majority of your stuff. Like, truth be told, I didn't really like school either, because I didn't feel I was learning as much applicable skills. But when I joined, I had my multiple internships, I had, my different part-time jobs. Those were where I learned my true skills that made me a successful person. My GPA sucked, honestly. I had a horrible GPA by the time I graduated, but I still got a consulting job, and I'm still here now, and I'm doing well, and I'm happy. So to me, honestly, and I hate to say this to a bunch of students, but to me, school, like what I learned in school was like a much lower priority than what I learned in my day-to-day jobs, like my part-time jobs and my internships. So don't tell any of your professors that I said that, but to me, like the job, like going and my part-time job, not only did I make money, but I was able to learn on the job things that springboarded me into my careers. Like my BA internship for 3 months, I learned more there than I did in my entire 5 years at UCI, honestly.
I guess to just add a little bit to what Johnny said, because I think what I'm doing is a little bit different than in terms of tool usage, but I think what has helped me is understanding why we're using certain things, like understanding the why and how incentives align is critical. Like if someone's telling you how to do something, especially your first year at work, you should try and talk to them, understand why you're doing that. How does that fit into the bigger picture? Because that will really contribute to your success long term. Like everybody can do the what, but not everybody understands the why. And if you want to advance fast in your career, that is the critical piece. You have to understand the why. And the earlier you can start doing that, the better prepared you will be.
Great advice. Yeah, so many tools out there for working in the business industry. Just my preference, I think I use, well, I just know a lot, or not a lot, but I use Jira for my internship. I feel like that's like very popular among like software development, because I'm computer science right now. But yeah, those are a lot of tools, very diverse, depends on what company. Just keep that in mind. And yeah, that's a great piece of advice, Lucy. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for your great answers, Johnny and John. But I think we're gonna wrap up now. It's yeah, way past 8, but I'm really enjoying this panel we're having here. But yeah, just to wrap up, hold on, let me share the screen real quick. I think it's not shared.
No, I kicked you off, sorry.
All right, does it, wait, oh, wait, whoops, I click share. All right, is it good? Look good,
Yeah,
everyone?
good.
All right,
That's
cool,
Yeah,
good.
it's
cool.
good. Jerry.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for coming out to our alumni BIM panel. If we really appreciate if you guys filled out the feedback form. I'll share that to the chat, or yeah, if someone could do that for me. Thank you so much. Yeah, we just want to know what else we can improve on and know what else we could talk about in future workshops. And if you guys have any further questions or you want to follow John and Johnny, to follow their LinkedIn, ask him certain things. And Lucy, we couldn't find your LinkedIn, but we have your email. Is it okay if we share that email here so that I don't know, some people might have any questions about BIM or just like some career advice?
Yeah, definitely. I actually deactivated my LinkedIn account, so that's why you
Oh,
can't
did
find
you?
me.
Okay. All right. Yeah, sounds good. And next week we're gonna have a speaker event. It's gonna be two speakers from Visa. They're basically gonna be talking about their careers and give some advice and some steps to take to land a potential position at Visa. So yeah, be ready for that. And yeah, overall, thank you so much for coming out, you guys. I really appreciate that you guys took the time out of your day to come here. And John, thank you so much for making the effort to give an extra PowerPoint. I really enjoyed it. I hope everyone else did too. But yeah, that wraps it all up. And thank you so much for coming out, everyone. I hope to see you guys next time.
Visuals, man, I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, it really helps. Really helps. I loved it.
Actually, if
Yeah,
everyone
but-
doesn't mind, would it be okay if we took a Zoom picture really quickly?
All right. Yeah, let's do that.
Everyone can turn their cameras on if they're down for it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
I guarantee you I blinked.
All right, yeah, it wraps it up. I think we're gonna close the Zoom. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Come out next week if you want to learn about careers at Visa. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming out today.
Thanks for having us.
It's nice to meet you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Good night, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Did we stop the recording?
I'll stop it.